Coming to the realization that you have DID or OSDD, whether through your own journey or being diagnosed, can be incredibly difficult. It can leave you confused, overwhelmed, scared about your future, unsure about your past. We are Brigade of Beans in Diagnosed Dissociative Identity Disorder System. My name is Mire, and today I wanted to make a video discussing 7 tips for newly aware systems. This video is actually a part 2. Last year we made a video where we discussed 7 tips for questioning systems, and if you would like to watch that video, you can do so up above. Some of the points in that video apply to newly aware systems as well, not just questioning systems. So even if you are now sure that you are a system, you might still find benefit in that video. If you are interested in learning more about dissociative identity disorder, more about systemhood, more about our experiences as a disabled individual, please consider subscribing and leaving a comment letting us know what kind of content you would like to see from us in the future. Doing self-promo is so incredibly awkward. Anyway, moving on to this video. We have broken this down into, again, 7 tips, and you can find timestamps in the description to jump between different sections. Tip number 1 is to go slowly. It can be tempting when you first get diagnosed or first come to the realization of your system on your own to try and work everything out as quickly as possible. There is a giant piece of new information presented to you. Maybe you already guessed, maybe some parts in your system were already aware, but this confirmation can be a lot, and you might want to try and solve everything as quickly as possible. But rushing into things is not only likely to slow it down, it also has the potential to be very, very dangerous for you, to cause crisis, and to even cause risk to your life. Do not rush to find other alters. When you don't yet know yourself, your system, your specific experience as well, it is easy to misattribute what different traits belong where, who is who, what is going on. This might mean thinking that you have more alters than you do. It might mean thinking that you have less alters than you do. It might mean making mistakes about alters. It might mean making other alters feel pressured to tell you things about themselves that they might not actually know yet or might not be ready to share. There will be many alters within your system who have experienced trauma, and that might mean that they are very scared of trusting anybody, including other parts of the system. It is going to be more helpful to take things slowly, to try and show that you can be consistent, that you can be reliable, that you can be safe, than to rush to try and find out the pieces of information about everyone in your system. On a similar note, try not to rush into working out why you are a system, or what trauma happened, or why specific parts are the way they are. A lot of the time these things are buried very, very deep inside because they are incredibly overwhelming or potentially unsafe to know. It is not uncommon that post-system awareness there is an increase in distressing emotions, distressing memories, distressing body sensations, and sometimes this increase can lead to behaviors that are dangerous for the system, including self-harm and potentially suicide attempts. It is more important to develop safety, which I will get to later on in this video, than it is to try and solve the mystery as to why you are a system. It is important to give yourself time to breathe, to take things slowly, to pace yourselves. This might mean setting aside 1 hour once a week to do a little bit of system work, a little bit of journaling. Maybe you have the supports in place to be able to do that once a day. Maybe it's once a month. Maybe you specifically only do any form of system exploration in the therapy space. Maybe you only do it in the company of a friend. Take it at a pace that works for you and allow yourselves time to rest and recharge before approaching specific alters, specific memories, specific barriers, and take your time learning and adjusting before you try to solve or fix anything. And my final element of this tip is if you are somebody who either has an existing social media platform or who wants to start making social media, go slowly in how you approach disclosing your dissociative disorder online. Unfortunately, there is a lot of very unkind people on the internet, And when you come out about your dissociative disorder, it is likely that you are going to receive hate. So before you do that, you need to establish as a system, are you okay with that? And what safety barriers are you going to put in place to prevent that from happening and to prevent that from being detrimental to you? And especially go slowly if you do not know a lot about dissociation, if you do not know a lot about psychology, and err away from trying to make educational content when you don't have a good understanding of those things. Try to make it focused on you, your experiences, things that are not generalized to the entire system community, because that is where misinformation is spread. And whilst that isn't a negative personal quality to accidentally spread misinformation, it is important to try and minimize the spreading of it. So go slowly and be explicit if you do decide to post that these are based in your experiences and are not meant to be blanket statements for everybody with DID or OSDD. Tip number 2, be authentic. Because you're watching this, I'm assuming that you consume DID and OSDD content online. Maybe this is your first video, maybe you watch it a little bit, maybe you watch it extensively. With that being said, it is important that you do not try to force other systems' experiences onto yourself if they do not fit. There are going to be experiences that you have that you will not see reflected online. This does not mean that people online do not experience them, but it might just mean that they are not comfortable or able to talk about those experiences for safety reasons, for personal reasons, for lack of insight, for a fear of being seen as different. And so please do not base your expectations for yourself on strangers on the internet. Allow yourself to use language that feels authentic and right to you. There is no right or wrong way to refer to yourself and your understanding of your dissociative disorder. You might like the term headmates, you might like the term parts. You might see yourselves as one part of a fractured whole. You might see yourselves as unique individual people. None of those are inherently wrong, and you should not try to force yourself into descriptions that do not fit for you. And in the same way, you'll hear often roles thrown around: host, caretaker, gatekeeper, guardian, all of these different things. You can look into them if these terms work for you, if they describe alter functions within your system, if it is beneficial for you to use them to communicate between yourselves and with other people what specific alters do, then go for it. But it is also relatively common to not relate to other systems' roles or to have alters that don't quite fit those boxes, and you might create your own alter role terms, or you might just not use them at all. Those are just some examples, but you can apply them to any of your experiences. The place where this gets more tricky is when you're talking about symptoms and diagnostic criteria. So some people still say multiple personality disorder rather than DID, mostly people who were diagnosed with MPD before the label changed, and there is nothing inherently wrong with that. But if you are choosing to educate on the internet or to speak to other people about it, make sure that you are using current clinical terminology, so DID, dissociation, dissociative disorder, to make sure that you are not spreading misinformation. Or if you are using terms for yourself that are outdated, adding disclaimers somewhere that it is very clearly communicated that those terms apply to you and are not commonly used by the rest of the community. Do not try to force yourselves into experiences that are not accurate to your experiences. I'm going to use an analogy from our system. We have never really had a supervisual inner world. We have an inner world. We can feel it, we can sense it, we know what it should look like. We know where alters are located in relation to each other. When we first started making DID content, when we were talking to our friends, when we were talking to our therapist, we embellished our experiences because we were under the belief that you either had to have a visual inner world or have no inner world. And we knew we didn't have no inner world, so we tried to force ourselves into having a visual inner world by talking about, speaking about our inner world like we had a visual inner world. That then meant that we were lying and embellishing our experiences, not because we were malingering, but because we felt like we had to be something else. That if we weren't, there was something wrong with us. So we were trying to emulate other systems' experiences to fit in. But that embellishing was not helpful to ourselves and was detrimental to our relationships, when we then had to explain, hey, what we've been saying isn't true exactly, and then we had to navigate that conflict that came up. But embracing our authenticity, embracing that experience, talking about it, we found that there are other systems who also experience that and either haven't shared about it because they don't speak publicly or have felt too embarrassed or confused to be able to talk about it and articulate it. So again, just because there is an experience that you're having that you're not seeing represented doesn't mean that experience isn't a common one, isn't also experienced by other people with dissociative disorders. This also means not trying to force yourselves to present a specific way. If your system is covert and the alters are very similar, they don't use different names, they don't behave differently, they don't dress differently, do not try to force them or force yourself to be more elaborated and differentiated. That is natural for you. You can still try that out to see if it fits, because maybe your covert nature is a form of masking, but if you try it and it doesn't feel right, then don't continue to do that. At the same time, if you are a very overt system, if alters are very different, if you have different accents or different preferences or very observable different ages or skill sets, you don't have to try and hide that in safe situations. You are allowed to present that. You are allowed to be yourselves, despite what people on the internet might say. There is a lot of hate directed towards overt systems. That hate is not founded. It is hard not to listen to hate on the internet. It is hard not to let it affect you. It is hard not to listen to uneducated people in your real life as well, who might say things like, that's not possible, that's not real, you're pretending, you're making this up. That is not true. You know yourself. You know your experiences. You know what feels right or wrong, and you should trust that and embrace that and not dim it or push it away because of the things that other people are trying to force onto you. My final note for this tip is that denial is common. Denial is also very complex. It might be a complete denial of your diagnosis. It might be a denial of specific alters. It might be a denial of specific traumas or past events. And that can mean that it is hard to work out what is authentic to you and what is not. And it is okay for you to struggle to understand that. It is okay for you to be confused even outside of denial. It is okay if things do not make sense. This goes back to tip 1. Take your time. Allow things to happen. Meet yourself where you're at. Go slowly. And if you're in denial, if accepting your system right now isn't safe, that's okay. It can wait. If denial is overwhelming and causing you distress, you can ask for help. You can look for tips. We have a video with our experiences with denial that have some advice pieces in it. And once again, it is okay, and it does not mean that you are faking if the experiences that you are having are not ones that you see other people spoken about. Your disorder, your system formed around you to protect you, a reflection of your experiences, your genetics, your needs. And that is unique to you, and that will mean that there are unique symptoms and experiences that you have that others won't have in the exact same way. Tip number 3, experiment. When working out how to live authentically as yourself, you're going to have to try different things. You're going to have to try different communication methods. I'm going to go more into that in another section. You can try out different ways of presenting yourself. You can try out different coping skills, different self-soothing skills. You can test out how you want to disclose this to other people, how you want to approach therapy for this, how you want to live your life as a multiple. One other thing that is going to be really, really helpful is to develop a list of grounding tools that work for you. This might mean that it works for all alters in your system, or it might work for specific alters in your system. We, again, have a video about grounding that you can watch if you want more ideas, but some basic ideas are sensory-based grounding, sight, smells, sounds, so music, scented candles, specific comfort items that have a feel to them, visual paintings that you really like. Your next thing that might be helpful is temperature-based. Are you too warm? Are you too cold? Does sitting in front of a cold fan help you? Does holding an ice cube help? Does having a warm shower or holding a hot water bottle help? Does putting frozen peas on the back of your neck or the soles of your feet help you stay present? The next one is mental-based grounding, so using your mind for things, solving logic puzzles, doing math problems, playing word games, doing things that involve your mind to keep you present. And the final section, this is not all the different types of grounding, but the final section I'm going to mention in this video is identity-based grounding, reminding yourself who you are, where you are, what is going on, engaging in things that you specifically like as an alter, or that collectively you like as a system, and surrounding yourself with information that helps you feel present in yourself and in the body. These grounding skills can help you facilitate switches, can help you prevent switches, can help with derealization and depersonalization, can help with flashbacks. There are so many areas in which grounding can be helpful. It's not going to work 100% of the time. It is not always going to stop you being distressed. It is not going to prevent these things from ever occurring, but it can make these things less intense or decrease the time period that they take place for. The other thing to experiment with is what kind of self-soothing things help you. Is it taking a bath? Is it having a cup of tea? Is it going for a walk? Is it spending time with pets? Is it being with friends? Is it watching comfort media? What things help you feel present and okay and safe? Because once you establish those feelings of safety, that is going to help with system communication, it's going to help with your flashbacks, it's going to help with understanding yourself and your collective. And so building up lists of these things, because you're likely going to have amnesia, you're likely going to have memory issues, writing them down so that you can easily refer to it, and you can think less when you are in those distress states. You can just go through a list and try different things. You can practice different communication styles within your system as well, and I have a whole category on this, so I will go into more details then. And you can also practice different self-expressions, different makeup styles, different clothing preferences. Where does your voice sit naturally when you are in the body? How do you move the body? What ways feel right for you? Is there something that feels wrong? What kinds of activities do you as an individual also like to do? What helps you feel safe? What helps you feel grounded? How do you want to interact with people? Do you have specific relationships with people that other alters don't have? Allow yourselves the space to test things out. You'll try some things and it will be an immediate no. It'll be, this doesn't feel right, this causes flashbacks, this makes me incredibly uncomfortable. Other things you might try out and it's an immediate yes, it feels right, it feels good, it feels safe. Other things might be like, nah, this doesn't really help me right now, but it might help later, so you just keep it in the back of your mind. Experimenting with these things, practicing these things, keeping lists of these things are all going to be very, very helpful. Tip number 4, finding support and supporting yourselves. So in the concept of professional support and seeking professional support, we go into detail in that in the part 1 of this series. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I will just list a few different options for what professional support might look like. These can be psychologists, psychiatrists, GPs, counselors, chaplains, peer support, support workers, mental health support workers, mental health nurses. There is a lot of different varieties of what professional support looks like. It might be online, it might be in person. Look around, see what is in your area, see what you can afford. It can be hard to find somebody who is educated in dissociation, educated in trauma, educated in DID or OSDD, but it is possible, and there are really good support people out there who will champion for you and will meet you where you're at and can help you. You might have to try out several options first. You might do a little bit of jumping around to find somebody who both knows what you need them to know and also is a good fit for you, but it is possible to find professional support. But you can also find informal supports, your friends, your family, your community, your social groups that you go to, school, work, university, college, all of those sorts of things. You can find people who can help you. Maybe it is helping with the practical side of things. Maybe it is helping you learn about yourselves. Maybe it is just being somebody that you can talk to and working out what is appropriate for your specific relationships, what other people are capable of and comfortable doing, and talking to people, communicating with them. You might disclose that you have DID or OSDD. You might disclose that you have trauma. You might disclose that you have mental health issues. You might just say, hey, I'm really struggling to go to the supermarket by myself. Do you want to come with me and we can do our grocery shop together? You don't have to tell somebody everything in order for them to be able to help you. And you can also support yourselves. So building up those lists of coping skills, building up lists of self-soothing skills and self-care activities that you can do. Learning who in your system is good at what and practicing letting them do the things that they're good at. Practice letting them fun, practice trusting them, practice listening to them so that you can work collaboratively to support the system. You can also research things, so you can research specific types of therapy like DBT or CBT or IFS or ACT and the different skills that they have that you can try and utilize. You can research more about dissociation, you can research more about flashbacks, you can research more about specific trauma experiences you've had, and you can start to use this information to understand yourselves. That research can be very hard. Again, go slowly with it. If you find yourselves getting activated or triggered, pull back, rest, and then revisit it slowly later. Finally, if you are a minor, try and identify a safe adult you can talk to. I know that this can be hard, especially if your parents aren't safe or your teachers aren't safe. You might be talking to your friends about it, you might be in online spaces. However, as a former teenager myself who thought that no adult could help me and I should just deal with it all myself, talking to adults can help. You might also not be helped and it can be messy and sometimes it won't always go perfectly well, which is why trying to find a safe adult to talk to is important. Somebody who is going to listen to you, somebody who is going to respect your privacy and respect your boundaries, and somebody who is going to be able to help you access resources and care that you need right now. Because discovering that you are a system can be a lot and you deserve help. Even if you are an adult in your 20s, your 30s, your 50s, you still deserve that external support and you can still find another safe adult externally who can help you with these things. You do not have to tackle everything alone, either alone as an individual alter or alone as an individual system. You deserve adequate care and you deserve to be supported. Tip number 5, document things. It is highly likely that your awareness of amnesia will increase post-system awareness. There might actually be more amnesia because there might be more switching, or your awareness of it just might increase. And it's the same level of amnesia as before, you just start noticing it more. So we recommend keeping a list of important personal information to you. This is the medications that you take and when you take them, what they are for. This is who your emergency contacts are, what they know about you, what is safe to tell them. This is who your providers are, what their contact numbers are. This is when you are born, where you live, what your phone number is, all of that information that either you as an alter might forget or other alters in your system might not be aware of. So that if somebody else switches in and needs that information, they can find it. This also includes things like where you work, what your work schedule is, which alters in your system are able to do your job, or a basic itinerary of how to do your job. If you're going to school, when your classes are, where your classes are, which alters go to school, all of that kind of thing. Keeping that information in a binder, in a document, or on your phone, so that you and everybody else in there is aware of the responsibilities that you have in daily life. If you have kids, if you have people you live with, making a note about who they are. If there are people in your life you do not talk to anymore, having a list of who those are and having it in a place where it is easy for people to see, so that if they switch in, they can see that information and they do not contact those people. Use calendars and reminders and alarms to keep on top of things. We use our phone calendar a lot to make sure that we do not forget when our classes are, when our appointments are, when we are seeing our friends. We use timers a lot when we are cooking so we don't burn our food. We use reminders a lot so that we know that we need to brush our teeth, that we need to shower, that we need to feed our cats, that nobody in here is forgetting the things that we have to do to live our life. Write down the information about different parts in your system. This might be following a specific template. This might be using a specific platform like Discord or PluralKit or physical journals or Obsidian. It might be writing it down just very loosely in a journal or on loose pieces of paper that you put together in a binder. You might include images of what alters look like. You might include ages, when they split, what memories they hold, what role they have in the system, their gender, their sexuality, how they feel when they are fronting in the body, specific personality traits about them, specific interests that they hold, who they have communication with, what they specifically need, if there is anything that they struggle with more than other alters, if they are a safety risk to themselves, to the system, to other people. I'm going to add the disclaimer that to other people is unlikely, but it's not even that they might be homicidal or actively dangerous. It might just be parts that, for example, don't know how to drive a car and so shouldn't be behind a wheel because it poses a safety risk to other people. Adding that disclaimer because people think DID is the murdering people disorder, and it isn't. It isn't, but it is also untrue to say that no systems experience parts that can be dangerous to others, especially if they're triggered and if they are seeing somebody else as a threat to them, whether or not that person actually is. Disclaimers aside. Sorry, side tangent. You might not know all of this information right away. It might be guesswork. It might be information that specific alters fill out themselves. It's probably going to be incomplete. Our information about alters is still incomplete. To be fair, we have a very large system. It might be a single word of caretaker. It might be a little descriptor of, there is somebody who feels about 5 years old. I think they like the color pink. They seem to front whenever we're watching the news. Or it can be heavily detailed and you might have a lot of information about them. Try to keep it in one specific location instead of spreading it out, but also keep backups in case a platform goes down, or you lose journals, or journals get thrown out because you're in denial, or specific alters are scared about what is being shared. And be careful who you share this information with. You might choose to share it with your therapist, you might choose to share it with friends or close people, you might choose to share it with the internet. Be careful with this, especially if you're sharing things like front triggers or what pulls an alter forward or the distressing memories that an alter holds. You do not want to give somebody else the power to influence who is fronting in your system unless you very much trust them and there are specific boundaries about how that information will be used. For example, our therapist has permission to trigger out our private protected cryptic at the end of session if we need to get home safely, but that is always discussed in the session and has been discussed with him. This is not something she would just do without our permission. So practice basic internet safety, make sure that you are aware of what you are sharing and have permission from that alter to share that information. But just be careful about what you share, especially if you're sharing it publicly online, and do not give somebody information that they can use to control you or to harm you unless you very much trust this person not to do those things, and make sure that you have permission from the alters that you are sharing about to share on their behalf. Or if you have a specific alter in your system who wants to share about yourself and you don't really know if that's a good idea or not, try to check in with your system using either internal or external communication. Tip number 6, communicate with curiosity. This is kind of going right the way back to number 1, but do not demand answers. Leave open-ended questions. Make a space where parts can share about themselves when they are ready in ways that they are comfortable with. One of the main ways to communicate with your system is through journaling. There are many different ways to journal. You might use something like a DID specific journal. This one is by Ella Everett and you can find it on Amazon. This has a bunch of different spaces to fill out internally and also has different journaling prompts within it. Spaces for alters to fill out information about themselves, spaces for you to fill out information about your life, and something like this can be very helpful. You can also create your own versions, whether it's digitally or just in your own journal, or that you get printed through something like Officeworks. You might just have a journal that you put everything in, that you write about to-do lists, alter information, trauma memories, current thoughts that you're having. You just dump all of your thoughts into it. You might have a specific journal for art journaling and have different pens, markers, paints, crayons available for different parts to contribute. You might do video journaling where you sit down and you talk to a camera, you talk to your phone, and you just explain what's going on in your head, explain how you're feeling. We find video journaling especially helpful as it allows us to hear the visual differences between alters. We didn't realize how little vocal difference we have between each other, because in our heads when we're speaking we all sound very different, and then we watch a video back and there's not actually that much difference. It also allows you to visually see different ways that alters move the body, that they hold the face. It shows different facial expressions. It might show different eye contact to the camera. It can be a really good way to learn more than just what is being said by also being able to watch back the behaviors that are displayed. You might do something that is more scrapbooky or junk journaling, where you just glue things into a book, where you make collages, where you visually express what you look like. You might use digital platforms like Antar or again Obsidian, or just a Word document or OneNote. There are many, many different ways to journal. We are slowly making a series on our Patreon about different ways to track your system, and part of that also goes into journaling with your system and communicating with your system. Our Patreon is free, by the way, and you can find the link in our description. Take time to invite other alters forward. Make a space that feels safe, that feels calm, whether internally or externally. Find a medium that they can communicate with, whether it's you're recording yourselves, you're writing down in a journal, and ask if there's anything that wants to be shared. It might come with specific names, it might just be information, and write that down, keep track of that, communicate with parts. You might not know directly who you are communicating with. You might be trying to work out where one alter starts and another begins. You might be trying to work out if you are an alter or if you're just a dissociated different alter. It can be really confusing to work out who is in a system. It can be really confusing to work out who is who in a system and where different thoughts are coming from, where different needs are coming from. It takes time, it takes practice, and sitting down, reflecting, checking in is going to help you build these skills. You won't always directly meet alters. I kind of just mentioned this, but more specifically, it might not be like Jamie needs you to go to the supermarket and buy them noodles for dinner. It might be a vague feeling of, oh, I feel really upset right now. This feeling doesn't feel like it belongs to me. And you might not be able to work out who that feeling belongs to. But if you can feel that you're upset, you can reflect back inwardly, remind them where you are, remind them that you are safe, and practice self-soothing skills to help regulate the body, which can then calm that part, even if you don't have direct communication with that part or know who that part specifically is. And that act of helping soothe the body, helping regulate, can then build that trust so that they then feel safe enough to introduce themselves. Or it might be that they're not aware that they are an alter to be able to introduce themselves. So giving them time and exploring it slowly with them might be the most beneficial thing. And finally, for this piece of advice, communicating with your system is probably going to be overwhelming at different points in time. Learning about different trauma, learning about different alters, learning about things that you don't remember, even if they are positive events, will bring up very intense emotions. It is okay if you as an individual get overwhelmed. It's okay if you as a collective system get overwhelmed. Slow things down, self-soothe, check back in later. Take time, do it slowly, don't rush things. You do not have to be perfect all the time. You don't have to respond correctly to every single thing that your system shares with you. But try to be open and honest when something is overwhelming and remind them that it is not the system's fault that you are overwhelmed. You are still adjusting. You are still learning. Tip number 7, establish safety. So the first step in building safety is working out what safety means to you as a collective system and to specific alters within your system. For some alters, their definition of safety will be never talking to another single human being ever again because humans are unsafe. Whilst a non-traumatized person might look at them and say that's actually a maladaptive behavior, pushing people away isn't helpful, we need these people to support us, it makes sense to them. And you don't necessarily need to understand why it makes sense to them, but if you understand what the definition of safety is, then you can incorporate that into your collective steps moving forward. It is unlikely that you will actually block contact with every single other person on the planet, but it might mean that you take more steps to reassure this part, or you're very selective with who you talk to, who you share vulnerable information with. It might mean that you take more time to yourselves to be able to regulate in a way that feels authentic to your system and isn't going to then put other alters in distress. So I would do this as a journaling exercise. You probably won't get it all out in one go, especially if multiple alters are contributing, but having a mind map where different alters can contribute over time to what safety means to them, so that you can then work collaboratively to find a communal definition of safety and to pursue a communal safe pathway forward. The next thing is, who do you tell about your dissociation, about your trauma, about your system? And how do you know that they are safe to do so? This is, again, a thing that will be very individual to you. We tell most people that we have DID because we have the luxury of having very good formal and informal supports, that we are not afraid of other people coming back to us and saying, no, you don't have DID, because we are diagnosed. That has been confirmed by multiple different professionals. We know ourselves, we are assured in that basis. What we are more cautious about, what we do a lot less, is share specifics about alters. We might be open about having DID, but not who is fronting. We might be open about having DID, but not what our trauma is. And that's what is safe for us. But that won't be safe for other people. For other people, they will tell very few people about their diagnosis. They might only tell their treating professional. They might only tell their partner. They might only tell their best friend. What makes somebody safe to tell will depend on a lot of factors. 1, what is their understanding of mental health? Are they accepting of mental health? Are they accepting of dissociative disorders? 2, are they going to use your disorder against you? You won't always know this. This isn't something you can just tell about somebody all the time, and sometimes you will tell somebody and it then goes wrong, and you then have to navigate that, work out how to limit or block contact with them. And when it comes to telling people, it's likely, if you have DID or OSDD, that you have experienced abuse in your past. And you might know who those people are, you might not know who those people are. And so if you are disclosing that you have DID to people who have been around you since childhood, it is important to check in with your system and to try and work out whether any of those people have contributed to your trauma history. That can be very hard to learn. It might not be an alter actively telling you this person is unsafe. It might just be overwhelming feelings of nausea whenever you think about telling a specific person. And that might be anxiety. That might be a warning. If there are other people who already know about your diagnosis, about your trauma, you can talk it through with them, seek their opinions, and check in with your system. And ultimately, it's up to you to tell who you want to tell and in a way that works for you, but be careful about it. The next thing is, who in your system is good at managing safety? Do you have parts that are good at sussing out whether someone is safe or unsafe? Do you have parts that are good at fronting when you are feeling unsafe within yourselves? Do you have parts that are really good at making sure that you are financially secure and that you're attending the appointments that you need to do? If you can identify who those are and enlist them into helping out every day, if you have the ability to do that, that could be really, really helpful. And finally, how do you manage crisis as a system? Being a system is often associated with self-harming behavior and suicide attempts. It is likely that a lot of people with DID and OSDD will enter a mental health crisis, whether or not they actually engage in those behaviors, or they engage in other behaviors, or they don't engage in those behaviors, but they are just overwhelmed by flashbacks or nightmares or dissociation or hallucinations or delusions. And whilst hallucinations and delusions aren't part of the DID diagnosis, they can come along with intense periods of stress or intense period of trauma or other comorbidities that you as an individual might have. So it is important to know what crisis looks like for you and then have a plan to manage crisis. It might be a specific safety plan you have with your therapist. It might be a more informal plan that you have with friends. It might be a structured plan that you have with your partner. It might be a discussion that you have as a system as to which alters tend to be around more when you are entering a crisis, looking out for your warning signs, looking out for your amber flags, your red flags of entering a crisis. It is learning which parts might have behaviors that are harmful to the system and working out how to limit their fronting or work out what they need to prevent those behaviors, teaching them other coping skills, allowing them to front in therapy. And a lot of this stuff won't be quick. A lot of this stuff will take time. A lot of this stuff will need fine-tuning, but it is making sure that you have a plan in place on how to navigate crisis when it arises. And that wraps up our 7 pieces of advice for newly aware/newly diagnosed systems. Our final, less so much piece of advice, but more reassurance, is that you're going to get things wrong, and that is okay. You're going to make mistakes about your system. You're going to make mistakes in how you cope with things. You might trust the wrong person, or find a therapist that doesn't match, or use a coping skill that triggers you, or misattribute traits to the wrong alters. All of that is okay. All of that is human. You are not going to perfectly understand yourself. There are dissociative barriers in your brain. It's going to make things hard to work out. You might make very few mistakes. You might make a lot of mistakes. And all of that is okay. That is part of learning. That is part of growing. And that does not make you a bad person. I am very, very proud of you as a collective for acknowledging the fact that you are a collective. It can be very, very hard to embrace the fact that you share a body, that you are multiple, that you are fractured, that you are dissociated. That is not an easy thing to acknowledge, to accept, and to work with. And I am very, very proud of you for watching this video to try and learn more, for doing what you can to support yourselves. That is very, very hard work, and you should congratulate yourself for it. I hope that this new realization goes as smoothly as it can for you. I hope that moving forward things get easier, and whatever happened to you in the past, you did not deserve it. You deserved a safe childhood. You deserved a secure childhood, and you deserve care and support now. Thank you all for watching. I'm sorry for the clicking in the background. I don't know what it is in my roof that makes that sound. It is really annoying. I will see you all next month with a new video. And until then, take care of yourselves. Goodbye.